is today I should be driving this Supra. It's difficult to tell whether this is 2 or 3 liters. You have the fake air vents here in Japanese market. It's possible to swap them for carbon fiber ones, for the real ones. The wheels look interesting, two-tone. I'm not sure whether these are forged, but they look like forged wheels to me. The standard brakes. And tires. Front point off. Debate. Stainless steel. Plastic diffuser with a F1 type rear brake lights. Looks amazing. Looks fairly low on the ground and kind of like a channel through the roof. My only problem with this generation is the front bumper is not as aggressive as it's on the FD1 concept. The vents are fake, these vents are real. This is a bummer, to be honest. Other than that, looks very nice. And next to it we have the GR Yaris, the rally version. It's one of the homologation specials. Comes with Pilot Sport 4S tires. I'm curious whether we have the same on the Supra as well. Yeah, Pilot Super Sports. I think the Yaris tires are a little bit more aggressive. So the 2.0 Supra outputs the same power as 1.3 Yaris, and some people make the argument that 2.0 is the lighter version, but then it begs a question why they haven't put the 1.3 liter turbocharged engine, which could make the Supra even more lighter, but we'll figure it out in the test drive. So these vents again are fake. I really don't like this part of the car, but in Japanese aftermarket it is possible that one can have a GT4 conversion with real carbon fiber vents, putting in those parts to improve airflow around the car. And obviously one thing that's missing from Mark IV is the colossal rear wing, and again this is possible to have an aftermarket wing on it, and we have another one here. It's impossible to tell whether these are 2.0 or the 3 liter engines, but we'll find out in the test drive. So all in all, looks very nice in flesh, very low, and build quality looks rather nice. So this is the test drive for Supra 3.0. can use this area
Prepare to turn left.
to reverse. So what I will do here is drive. The heads-up display is a little bit faint, but I think it does the job fairly okay. Just to recap, the positioning of the pedals are brilliant. Throttle response, very good. The brakes don't feel as good relative to the TCR, but that has drilled brakes. Those 911 turbos just passing by.
Please turn half left in 200 yards into Woodstock Road. Now turn half left.
In this kind of E-road, actually the car feels very wide, so exhaust pipe doesn't crackle, which is not a worry at all because I usually don't like it. If the engine note itself is good enough, you don't need those artificial pops and crackles to feel like you are driving a sports car, so that's nothing to worry at all. On a second note, actually, the brakes feel a little bit better than my initial response.
Prepare to turn right.
The navigation system in itself, I think the verbal instructions are okay, but the visual instructions,
Please turn right in 200 yards onto A44.
it's a little bit too zoomed out for my liking, so I would prefer
Now turn right.
if the instructions were a little bit easier to get. So after the SUV, I think we should have an opening reasonable enough. Acceleration is very, very good. It's, yeah, the roar of the engine is quite different, obviously. This being a 3.0 liter engine, it would feel different than a TCR. There's not much turbo lag, to be honest. And the ride itself is much more comfortable than the TCR without dynamic chassis control, I think. BMW and Toyota coming together, they did a very good job with this car. Obviously, I really cannot say how this compares to Z4, but I feel like this would be the better car. And the things which are of interest is how does the 2.0 liter car feels. The argument for that car is the lightness. I think it's 100 kilos lighter than this car, which is not negligible. Then the question would be whether Toyota could put the 1.3 liter engine from GR Yaris into that car, which could make it even lighter. And then in terms of the horsepower, there wouldn't be anything changed, but obviously it's a little bit marketing proposition that someone buying Supra, whether they would want to have a car with 1.3 liter engine. But in the past we had RX-8, which had a 1.3 liter engine, outputting 250 odd horsepower, so not a big deal at all. For this one, what could have been good is if the roof was carbon fiber, that could further lower gravity. Bigger and better brakes. I don't think the car needs more power, to be honest. And then the front bumper is the problem. The original FD1 concept from Toyota looks absolutely amazing, and I keep wondering whether when this car goes to a facelift, whether the gap between the current production version and FD1 concept will be further reduced. That would be something interesting. So then the other question is the numbers. The 3.0 car costs roughly around 53,000. I'm sure one can crank that up with adding further options. And then my daily driver TCR, it was roughly around 29k, and if we say we put the Acropoche exhaust on this one, that would be neck and neck. So would this be twice as a car? I'm not sure. Obviously it's something much more interesting. And it can be a viable alternative for a